This video shows the steps in building an HO scale brass Santa Fe sand tower by Bruce Von Stetina. To start, plans and photos are gathered, including detailed drawings. Help is then enlisted because any project goes better with a capable assistant. Copies are made of the tower plan and double-face taped to a board. A simple jig is made by driving in brads and cutting off their heads. C-channel is picked and put into the jig. Tank tubing turned to size on the lathe is set at the ends to check fit. The tower's concrete piers are made of very hard lemon wood and are long enough for the customer to sink into his layout. The C-channels have extra length to go into a display base. The horizontal angle braces are all cut to length. Rivet detail is added with rivet embossing pliers. Next, the brass angles are fit to size and embossed. Soldering is done with the resistance unit. The sand tanks are made in the lathe. Tubing is picked and turned to size. The end is cut square. A step is turned to represent the top section of the sand tank that overlaps. The horizontal seams are scored in on the lathe. The tank is cut off with the parting tool and the end is checked for square. End plugs are next turned from brass rod. The top one has a rim to represent the tank's overlapping rim that gets riveted on. The bottom plug is pushed in flush, then they're soldered in with a torch. Now for the riveting of the tank. An indexing rotary table is used. It is mounted in the mini drill press on an XY table. The two chucks are lined up using two pointed rods. The tank is put into the table's chuck and a center punch into the drill chuck. The rivet row is brought into place with the X movement. The even spacing of the rivets around the circle is accomplished with the dividing plate. The correct circle of holes is picked using a mathematical formula. This will give the hole spacing needed. It will be a number of turns on the crank and a certain number of holes counted on the plate. Now a number 80 drill is put into the drill chuck. For it to accept a drill this small, soft copper wire is wound around the drill bit, making the shank thicker. The tank has a rim on the top that is compensated for with a strip of cardboard around it in the chuck. The vertical holes are placed with the X movement of the table. Adjustments are made to get them on either side of the seam. The tank drilling is finished. A hole is drilled and threaded with a 1 mm tap for the upcoming sand valve in the bottom of the tank plug. A hole is also drilled in the center for the sand delivery pipe. On this tower, this pipe runs up the center between the braces. Bruce made the top hatch a mushroom-shaped vent and set it aside. It is soldered on after the rivets are done. The rivets are made of 28-gauge wire. They are soldered in batches using minimum flux and tiny flakes of solder. The sand valve and spout mount with a piece of 1 mm threaded rod. A brass rod is chucked in the lathe and a hole drilled and tapped. It is then turned to shape. It is drilled for the valve stem and slotted for the spout. That will be hinged onto a long rivet that is made in a special tool. The valve lever, weight, and stem are made and mounted. It is movable. The sand spout will move up, down, side to side, and in and out if wanted, although the in and out motion is best left fixed. The inner portion attached to the valve is made of rod. The outer length is tubing. To bend the tip, a short section of rod is inserted. The rod is first softened by heating so it will bend easily. Now the tank mounts are made of sheet brass pieces bent to the correct angle and embossed with rivets. The tank and its mounts are soldered into place. The ladder rungs are bent using some C-channel scrap and a spacer as a jig. Placement is marked out using a proportional divider, then they are soldered on. The cable pulley and its support and weight are made. The weight has a hole through its length and an eye for the cable. It is a counterweight for the spout. The assembly is soldered on with an L bracket at the top. The sand valve and spout are threaded in. The operating rod for the valve has a handle bent on it, and it's put into place. Final cleanup is done, then the rigging is put on. The thread is very fine and to scale. The thread is pulled through beeswax for defuzzing and longevity. The knots are touched with white glue. White glue is always used on thread. AC glue or super glue makes thread brittle and it will break over time. Bruce's helper appears delighted with the results. He finds it hard to do this work himself as he has no thumbs. Please visit the website at the end of this video to learn more about Bruce Von Stetina, his scale models, and fine art. And thank you for watching.